Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, it is I am the one and only, Mexi here once again, and I am back for the likes of the Mexi Toys videos. And ladies and gentlemen, welcome back for some more of Let's Play of Paper Mario, aka for those of you who lived in Japan, Mario Story for the Nintendo 64. So, last time, we've essentially managed able to explore around Koopa Bros fortress, and somehow we managed able to do quite a number of things here and there, like for instance, of course, battle some more enemies, able to get ourselves some more star points and what have you. But in addition to that, we also manage able to keep on collecting some more keys, to able to actually access to more areas of Koopa Bros fortress. And most importantly out of them all though, is that we somehow managed able to recruit with our third partner, which appears to be Balmet. So as a result, generally speaking, I was about the fact that, like I said before, since in yesterday, that Chapter 1 is the only chapter in the game that we can able to actually recruit not one, but two partners in a singular chapter, which is pretty cool, honestly. Although it wasn't until the later chapters though, we'll talk more about that if we continue our progression in terms of the forms of this game in particular. So, anyway, so today for this video is that we're about to able to try to conclude Chapter 1 by able to actually finally taking on the forms of the Koopa Bros. So as a result, now if you're probably wondering about the fact that how come the music has changed, well, obviously that was about the fact that we were expecting to able to actually still listening to the familiar remix theme, which appears to be the Airship Fortress theme from Super Mario Bros. 3, but actually as it turns out is about the fact that as soon as I saved my game, and then after a while I did manage to able to turn the game off, and as a result what happens was though is about the fact that the music is going back into its normal state. So either way, so that's besides the point. So anyway, so let's go ahead and take on the forms of the Koopa Bros, like I said before, but they might actually work on something, so I wonder if I'm very curious to know of what they're working on for its construction bit. So either way, and it may look like about the fact that it's up to us able to try to take them on. So either way, so, oh jeez. I wasn't expecting that Bowser will show up a bit earlier throughout the forms of the entire game, but relatively speaking according to the forms of the model of him, it looks a bit kind of odd. It's almost like a robot kind of Bowser form, but that's besides the point. So either way, so of course, the good thing about this is though is about the fact that after all, we somehow immediately switch over to Goon Mario before the actual fight starts, because relatively speaking, I was about the fact that again, I will try my best able to actually title as many of those, not only bosses, but as well as enemies as well. So either way, let's go ahead and title Bowser with 3 question marks. So relatively speaking, I was about the fact that, well, yeah, from the look of it though, it's almost like a robot kind of syndrome. So because of that, Bowser does only have 10 HP and 1 attack power and 1 defense power. So because of that though, yeah, relatively speaking, I was about the fact I believe this particular Bowser kind of phase of a fight is actually pretty easy when you get the hang of it though, especially because about the fact that that's how the action commands comes into play, like assuming of course if you try to time it perfectly with like trying to defend ourselves with blocking and stuff like that, and as a result though we could about the fact that no matter what though, actually let me go ahead and try to able to switch over to a different partner within Balmet and what have you. Although, despite the fact that we can't use the actual second turn for Balmet just yet, but as you can see, since we actually used the charge move, and as a result though, like I said before, it actually costs flower points, to be more specifically, 1 flower point to able to try to charge up your hammer attack, and as a result though, that way it should probably miraculously try to deal with the most devastating attack. Although, at the moment right now, we've only dealt with the forms of 3 damage within a singular hammer swing, although as far as I'm aware, the majority of the time though is about the fact that we can only try to able to hit him for about 1 hit point. So, although it's also a good thing too about the fact that we did somehow manage to able to equip HP plus before the actual fight starts, because otherwise though, it'll be ridiculously challenging if we don't manage to able to actually equip HP plus as a badge itself. Because, well, keep that in mind is about the fact that I'm probably not going to go for the level 1 challenge, just because no matter what though, similar to the forms of how it does it in most RPG games, ranging from Super Mario RPG alongside with the forms of the Kingdom Hearts series for that matter, I don't think it's possible for me to able to actually go up for the challenge by going through level 1 playthrough, because otherwise though, I might as well get my butt kicked, you know? So anyways, we did somehow manage able to deal with Bowser, and now we can take on the main, you know, attraction of this fight, and that's of course the Koopa Bros themselves. And by the way, I love this theme song right there, especially because it's almost like a cowabunga kind of vibes to it, because get it, because you know, the Koopa Bros almost inspired by Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, you know? So anyway, let the fight commence, and suffice to say, we immediately start things off with a, you know, a devastating attack as far as what they did manage to pull off. But either way, in order to try to actually tumble those Koopa Bros down, you can either decide to use, not only for the sake of the forms of the hammer, or to be more accurate though, if you're using Bombette, basically though, the only strategy you can probably think about is to use Body Slam, because that way it actually stumbles them a little bit. But if you don't manage to try to do this for about twice, I believe they'll try to get their balance back. So because of that though, but since that we somehow use the item for trying to heal ourselves with Super Shroom, obviously that was about the fact I don't think we can able to actually tumble them over. So we have to specifically not only use the hammer for Mario to try to lose that balance, but also with the Body Slam for Bombette, so that way it'll actually give us some bit of chance to actually try to tumble them over. So because of that though, yeah, relatively speaking, I was about the fact that when you get the hang of it though, it's actually not too bad of a boss fight as long as you know what you're doing. So either way, and there goes the actual tumble moments with, you know, the Koopa Bros. And obviously though, much like the forms of how it does with the regular Koopa Troopers, as soon as they somehow tumbled over, they'll lose their turn. So no matter what though, it's about the fact that, actually, let me go ahead and quickly change my, partner within Good Mario, so that means we have to deal with more tattling. So first of all we have is the green Ninja Koopa, which obviously he does have 5 HP and 1 attack power and 1 defense power. Now, as far as I'm aware, the actual status with the forms of the Koopa Bros themselves are all identical. So because of that though, they all have 5 HP and 1 attack power and 1 defense power. So because of that though, now as you can see, we somehow use one of the power blocks if you couldn't tell, so that way we can easily stun them while doing so. Because otherwise though, if they got stacked up again, obviously though we have to do the exact same trick as before. Like for instance though, assuming of course you need to switch over to Bombette until you're able to actually use Body Slam, and meanwhile for Mario you have to simply use the hammer. So because of that though, and potentially speaking, I was about the fact that hopefully though we can now able to use the power bounce, and let's go ahead and finish off the green Ninja Koopa right here, so we don't have to necessarily try to worry about trying to actually deal with the forms of some trickier situations until specifically for later. So yeah, there goes one of those Ninja Koopas right there. So now let's go ahead and title the black variant right here. And of course, we'll save the red one for last, in some cases the leader of the Koopa Bros tribe. So either way. So yeah, a few things I want to talk about this is about the fact that, well, today's date of course is the 25th of March today, in some cases in 2025 today. So yeah, potentially speaking of, only 8 more days to go until the Nintendo Direct Nintendo Switch 2 is going to be approaching. So because of that though, yeah, I'm still incredibly excited for it still. And not only that though, it's about the fact that it's very unfortunate for most recent points today. And that's what it appears to be for the fact that it's rather unfortunate for my Nintendo owners. In addition to that though, with Nintendo Switch players as well. Like for instance though, it's about the fact that unfortunately though, the gold points are no longer redeemable in terms of the forms of some other aspects in mind, which is hard for me to explain because we already know for a fact that everything else goes all pretty much downhill from here when it comes to likely getting ourselves some discounted price for likely try to use the gold points to begin with, like getting certain digital games in a cheaper price within using that gold points in mind, but oh well, no big deal. So yeah, we somehow defeated the Koopa Bros, and they somehow managed to get into the cage, as we've already experienced before, except now, the actual cracked wall has been blocked, so this means about the fact that the Koopa Bros will no longer escape, alongside with the forms of this pile of junk. And relatively speaking of, that pretty much does it for Chapter 1. And every time whenever you do manage to defeat the main boss in specific chapters, obviously though we can now able to claim, or should I say freed, one of these star spirits. So because of that, they obviously come in the forms of those Bowser cards, and as a result, as soon as we're able to actually obtain the card, then obviously though we can now free the first star spirit by the forms of L Star. Awesome sauce. End of chapter. And every time whenever you do manage to finish the chapter, it obviously gives us some more text about the fact of what's going to be coming up next during the forms of your actual playthrough. So no matter what though, we somehow rescue 1 star spirit and only 6 more to go. I mean, then again though, it's just about the fact that we are slowly getting there in terms of the forms of our progression so far. I mean, relatively speaking though, chapter 1 is actually a pretty good start in terms of Paper Mario and what have you, because relatively speaking though, it's about the fact that, well, again, this is only just the beginning, you know? Anyways, let's go ahead and save and continue right here. And after we somehow finish up with chapter 1, we can now head back into Peach's castle. And this time around though, is about the fact that rather than just going to the forms of the cinematic scene that involves around Princess Peach alongside with the forms of Twink, it may look like we can now able to actually take control of Princess Peach after a while. Especially no matter what though, I'm pretty sure there might be only a grand total of like 6 segments when it comes to playing as Princess Peach in this game, because otherwise though it's about the fact that we'll hear more about Bowser's plans of what he was going to be puts up in our sleeves and all that stuff. Well, mind you, it's hard for me to explain because it's been about a couple of hours ago since I actually have last played this game for sure, because obviously though, you know what I'm saying, I've been busy recently, and not to mention though is about the fact I'm almost going to be preparing for able to actually, you know, able to surprise you all for the likes of the forms of the 2nd of April of what's to come. So either way, and spoiler alert about the fact that speaking of the forms of the 2nd of April, I don't think there's going to be any uploads for the likes of this game in particular for the 2nd of April, just because, well, the main event is about to be on the horizon, you know? So anyway, we can able to take control of Princess Peach, as you can see. Basically though is about the fact that you're still able to move her around with the control stick. However though, unlike Mario though, she is not able to actually jump, or to be more accurate though, she's not going to do anything with the B button, as long as about the fact that we'll hear more about any other stuff until later on. So as you can see, we actually able to actually get caught by the forms of one of those Bowser's guards. And basically though, it's all about stealth too, because otherwise though, if you get caught by the actual searchlight and stuff like that, basically though, you instantly go back into the exact same room as you went into earlier. So because of that though, yeah, think of like Metal Gear Solid, except the fact that we can't use guns or anything else like that. So yeah, we definitely need to figure out how on earth do we able to actually get out of this room for sure. Well, to be more accurate though, we need to find a specific switch, and that way, you see that picture frame right there? That the one I'm almost walking straight towards it, right here. You see that exclamation mark there? Well, if you press the A button, well, that way, that Twink actually points out there is something behind the picture frame, which as a result is none other than the switch itself. And that way, we can now able to actually access this very well hidden passage, so that way we don't have to necessarily try to worry about getting caught by the forms of one of the Bowser's troops and stuff like that, specifically. Well, I'm not exactly sure what the enemies were specifically though, but we'll hear more about that if we continue our progressioning for this game. So because of that, there's another switch right there, which somehow immediately activates something like a turntable of some sort, and as a result, it actually leads us into that other room right there. So again, you don't have to necessarily try to worry about the stealth segments or anything else like that until for later on, that is. So, but if I were you, do not go into that door, because otherwise though, you might get caught again. So anyways, let's read this particular book, which, suffice to say, it might actually look like a diary. So yeah, let's go have a quick read through it this though, especially about the fact that we can able to actually hear more about Bowser's evil plans and all that stuff. So Anyways though, there are another thing else I would like to point out as well, and that's what it appears to be for the fact that recently though, that Nintendo Alamo has recently got its new version update, and as a result is now on to version 3.0.0 patch update. And they managed able to bring up quite a number of things with that particular Nintendo Alamo device, and so much to the point for the fact that there's actually quite a number of those lists I can probably think about the top of my head to able to try to describe about the forms of certain parts they've been fixed. Like for instance though, you can now set the alarm on and off, and as a result the alarm time and alarm mode for each day of the week, and you can also now set the playback time of the sleepy sound, and you can set the 1 minute increments from 1 minute to 60 minutes, which I think is what it says anyway. And they also about the fact that, well, they also point out with the forms of a preview will now play on the alarm scene selection screen. So yeah, that's actually pretty swell. And we also got ourselves improved the stability of demanding whether the good night sounds will play. And even if the good night sound has already played, you can now play it again by setting the good night sound. And there's also about the fact that you can now set the screen brightness to a darker setting. So yeah, that's actually pretty top notch, all things considered. And there's also with the forms of you can now check the MAC address of the unit even when it's not connected to the internet. And finally, they fixed several issues and improved optional stability and usability. So yeah, that's as far as we can able to try say about the forms of this whole topic in terms of the forms of Nintendo Alamo, especially because no matter what though, despite I still haven't got the actual alarm mode to be more specifically, but that's just mainly because, well, I might still save up for Nintendo Switch 2 after all, because, you know, we're getting very close until the actual more information is about to come, so either way, that's gonna be pretty exciting, you know. But anyway, so yeah, after reading through a whole bunch of scripts, or should I say, after reading that particular book, or a diary for that matter, it may look like about the fact that the next Star Spirit is going to be located somewhere in the desert. So yeah, something tells me about the fact that the next chapter is going to take place somewhere in the desert. So typical Mario fare with all that theming and what have you, until specifically, once we make our way to the later chapters though, then obviously though, several chapter themes is going to be somewhat unique, which as a result though, well, it wasn't until when it gets to the point until Paper Mario the Thousand Year Door rolls around, obviously though, is about the fact that the chapter themes are all very unique in that circumstances, so. But yeah, after reading all that stuff, it may look like that Bowser now shows up, and it may look like that the rest of the troops is also trying to able to actually get Peach again. Well, technically, the first time, if you don't get caught by the Fonso Searchlights, as we saw from earlier, so. Yeah, it may look like about the fact that it looks like this segment is finished, so. And it may look like we're about to be going back on to playing as Paper Mario, or Mario in general, to be more accurate though. And basically though, after you save the Star Spirit, it may look like we can now able to actually learn the first of one of those star abilities we can able to actually utilize with. So because of that though, although then again, we're technically not exactly completely done in terms of chapter 1 just yet though, because there are a couple of times though about the fact that as soon as we're trying to able to actually keep on fighting some more secrets from time to time, to be more specifically, the star pieces and all that stuff. But there is that specific badge later on that if we go back onto the forms that already previous visited chapters or what have you, there is that one specific badge. It's going to be pretty useful if you can't be bothered able to try to deal with the forms of weaker enemies. Then obviously though, suffice to say though, we'll try to save more mentions more about it once we're able to actually get that badge specifically. So anyway, so there's nothing to worry about. The forms to try to learn are star abilities from now on, because we'll try to describe it more about it if we get onto the forms of the later progression into this game in particular. So yeah, you are now finally free else though. So because of that though, we can able to expect to realize about the fact that, well, we still got a whole ways to go at this point in time. So either way though, and not only that though, is about the fact that for what I can gather, about the fact that there's going to be the most, well, it's hard for me to explain honestly, because, again, it has been quite some time since I've last played this for sure, because, you know, just want to get the actual, specific, done before anything else happens, and suffice to say though, is about the fact I'm just really looking forward to, spring, and in addition to that though, about the fact that, from what I've heard anyway, that the weather condition is actually going to be pretty good until the next couple of days, so yeah, that's going to be pretty exciting. So anyway, so now we can able to actually leave the phones to this particular place. Now before we get to that stuff though, oh yeah, I just realized that I believe since that we already did manage to take on the main boss in chapter 1, as a result we somehow got ourselves our HP back. So anyways, let's go in here and able to actually get on top of the phones that particular buildings and stuff like that, and open up the chest here, which gives us the FP plus, which stands for Flower Points Plus, which obviously does the exact same thing as HP plus, except obviously though increases your flower points instead of hard points. So, but at this point, I don't think we actually got enough badge points to equip that at the moment, but hopefully by that time until later on, if we somehow manage to keep on leveling up, then obviously though that'll be our perfect opportunity to try to use some badges, but not all of them, mind you, because like I said before, the maximum you can only get up to in terms of badge points, and that's what appears to be 30, whilst unlike the 1,000-year door, you can able to actually reach for about a maximum of, I don't know, 90 or somewhat, which I only know for a fact it's been quite some time since I actually have last played the 1,000-year door, specifically on the Nintendo Switch version, mind you, so either way, if that serves to be the case. So, even though what's even more unfortunate, if you couldn't tell, that we somehow managed to let an enemy attack us from earlier, because, well, we already know for a fact that we can able to actually take those guys on again, especially concerning for all that, well, a lot of battles that we somehow went into. So either way though, so let's just go ahead and, actually no matter what though, we'll go ahead and use the, might able to actually think of something here. Let's try, Koopa here, and potentially we can able to use the power shell, so we can able to finish off the, spiked Goombas and stuff like that. So naturally speaking out, there goes the spiked Goombas here. Now for the most part though, as soon as we're able to actually conclude the actual story progression for several chapters, what essentially what I'm gonna do is that sometimes though I have to ignore certain weaker enemies before we're able to take on stronger enemies until at some point in the future. So either way though, that's essentially how I'm gonna be thinking about it for right now. So yeah, everything else checks out there basically. So either way though, not too shabby right there. And every once in a while, we'll try to keep on collecting some more coins until we've realized, oh jeez, that was a definition of a close call right there, that I've almost gonna get myself ownage again, but luckily that's not the case. So either way, power shell again to able to try to finish off the, you know, the rest of the spiked Goombas, and hopefully we should able to finish off the Koopa Trooper right here. So anyway. So, as far as the forms of other stuff I would like to point things out is about the fact that, well, honestly, folks, that's as far as I can try to talk about in terms of the forms of today's discussion, I'm afraid. Although, apart from the fact that until tomorrow, I am definitely going to be coming back on playing through Sonic Dash again, but no matter what though, I can assure to you, I was able to guarantee to get myself a Ninja Espio at some point, because obviously that was about the fact that, like I stated before, since in yesterday, that I originally did say that I was going to take a break on that game for a while, but then we realized about the fact that until tomorrow, that Ninja Espio is definitely going to be coming onto Sonic Dash, and suffice to say, I'm really hoping about the fact that the entire process of trying to unlock him won't be nearly as lengthy or tedious compared to the forms of how it does it for Unicorn Knight Cream sometimes, because, you know, when it comes to likely for its epic variants for several unlockable characters in mind, that obviously though is about the fact that it's going to be taking quite a long while to able to actually try to unlock quite a few characters. They did say epic on here, because obviously that is about the fact that we need to collect, you know what I'm talking about, like 500, which is pretty plenty when it comes to likely for character cards in mind. So, although thankfully though, when it comes to likely for its, you know what I mean about the fact that, well, it's hard for me to explain because it's been quite some time, since we've last mentioned something related to unlockable systems for Sonic Dash and all that stuff. So, anyways, let's go ahead and, use the actual syrup right here, which actually restores our flower points, so that way you'll be good to go for trying to finish off these, spiked Goombas again, for able to once again use the power shell technique for Koopa. So, yeah, everything else checks out there. So, although, as you can tell, we are slowly trying to able to actually get some more, or some little amount of those star points, as far as you can definitely tell. But, mind you, that's only mainly because, no matter what though, oh jeez Louise. Ah! Jeez, I almost gonna get myself ambushed for a moment. But, luckily though, we somehow managed able to escape in time, so, anyway, so while at it though, let me go and restore our HP sometimes. All thanks to the forms of trying to spin around. Well, you know, think of like the forms of trying to deal with the forms of Mr. I from the likes of the forms of Super Mario 64. But unlike in Super Mario 64, that you will get like blue coins if you do manage to able to try to deal with the Mr. I himself. So either way though. And although I was expecting to try to deal with the forms of yet another Koopa Troopa, if you couldn't tell, but I'm actually going to be skipping on that for a while, because truth be told though is about the fact that we're trying to able to actually like, you know, trying to able to actually move on to our next story progression, so... Alright, not bad at all. So, either way though, but I'm sure enough that I don't think it's possible for us to able to try to reach our next level up for the time being, because, well, truth be told about the fact that, well, essentially, before we get onto the forms of the next, world we're going to be able to try to traverse into, we need to take care of the forms of some extra stuff first, before we're able to actually decide to move along to the next chapter, which as a result, yeah, that will be the case, mind you, because there are a couple of times though about the fact that if we, you know, try to check up on things. So anyway, let's go ahead and switch over to Goon Mario right here, because relatively speaking, we somehow got interrupted by what else? The familiar foe, which appears to be the Junior Trooper ever since in a prologue chapter. So, yeah, it's been quite some time, hasn't it? So it may look like he's wants some more revenge, so... And he somehow misses. Although he climbs back up again, so I suppose that's all I can really think about it. And it's also worth noting for too is about the fact that I accidentally forgot to save my game, but that's okay, because this boss is also kind of easy. Because, relatively speaking, there are a couple of times, though, during the forms of in the later chapters, sometimes we always get interrupted by the forms of, you know, the battle encounter against with the forms of Junior Trooper. Because, you know, after the events of the prologue, which he does have 5 HP, because, you know, that was the beginning portion of the game after all, so it may look like that he's now going to get himself more HP. So because of that though, and also every once in a while that he's going to be able to try to perform something different, like he's going to hide himself with the actual egg itself. So because of that though, this means trying to jump on him will not be effective on that particular fight at all. So the only way you can able to deal damage on him is that you have to use either hammer or body slam for the likes of Bombette, or I'm not exactly sure if bomb will count, but either way. So, as you can tell, that Junior Trooper, at least specifically the second fight, that obviously he does have 15 HP as opposed to 5 HP, unlike the forms of how it does it in, you know, the prologue segment. So, generally speaking, I was about the fact that, again, sometimes it takes a bit of while to able to try to deal the amount of damage to Junior Trooper, as long as we're able to actually keep on using charge move for, you know, the hammer, so that way it'll do devastating attacks and stuff like that. So yeah, that'll be my best bet for try to utilize with that. And let me go ahead and switch over to Bombette, so just in case we'll try to use the body slam as much as we can. So oh yeah, there's also another thing else I'd like to discuss upon actually, is about the fact that recently though, the Sonic the Hedgehog 3 movie has almost trying to make its way to $5 million for its box office, which at this point in time, about the fact that Sonic the Hedgehog 3 movie is currently now on to $491.1 million for its box office, which is doing pretty well still, although, unlike the defaults of how it does it for the likes of, well, I can't really able to actually comment on, in terms of the forms of that Mufasa the Lion King, because truth be told, until tomorrow, that particular film is going to be releasing on, Disney Plus until tomorrow, which I won't be too surprising for sure, just because, well, I'm just, you know, just moved away from the likes of that pointless live-action Disney movies for the time being, and it's especially noticeable that unlike the forms of how it does it for the most, you know what I'm talking about, the most recent release of Disney's Snow White remake, and suffice to say that the review scores is definitely going to get much worse, even with, critics, and at least the audience scores, it's something. And meanwhile, for the likes of the forms of another one of those websites in particular, which it does also receive some review scores for the time, and that's what appears to be, well, IMDb. As a result, it did somehow receive some very miserable score, and I was fine with guessed it. So because of that though, it did somehow receive 2.0 out of 10, which as a result, yeah, that film is, well, pretty much hated for a lot of people out there. Plus, with the forms of, well, anything else to be more specifically. So because of this though, well, in terms of other stuff I would like to point things out as well, is about the fact that, well, obviously though, we haven't got that long until, oh, you gotta be kidding me. I just realized about something. The box office is gonna get ramped up tremendously. Or to be more accurate though, it keeps on increasing too fast with all that, well, you know what I mean, with the pointless live-action adaptations of Disney movies and stuff like that, which as a result, yeah, I just found it to be not so surprising after all, because after all, I'm still not gonna see it anyway still, but mind you about the fact that it does have a lot of mixed reviews and all that stuff so far. So, yeah, it's hard for me to explain about this particular subject because, honestly, I just don't care for that. So, anyway, so that pretty much does it for, Junior Trooper, fight number 2. And as a result, though, he's pretty much dizzied for a while. And as a result, though, you can able to actually try to utilize with, other attacks, such as the forms of the Koopa's shell thing, or use Bombet's explosion thing to able to mess around with the forms of Junior Trooper's defeat, and or Junior Trooper's defeat. So yeah, again, I do apologize for my commentary, it's a little bit slightly iffy sometimes, because well, still, you know, I'm seriously almost gonna get hyped about the forms of what's gonna be coming for the likes of next Wednesday for sure, because, you know, we're just literally in 8 days left, so, and also we somehow meet up with Twink again, able to get ourselves some more information of what's to come, especially about the fact that our next destination is, did indeed, Dry Desert, not to be confused as Dry Desert from the likes of Mario Kart's Double Dash as a racetrack, including Mario Kart 8/Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, mind you, because relatively speaking, I was about the fact that, well, you get the idea what I was going to be on about it for the sake of time, so. And it may look like, as a matter of fact though, it's about the fact that since we somehow completed Chapter 1 in terms of our story progressions, you know what that means? We can now able to actually start able to be exploring some more areas of Toad Town now. So because of that though, yeah, that's actually pretty swell, especially about the fact that we can now able to actually well, something tells me actually, it's about the fact that we can now able to actually get even more badges, all thanks to the forms of, well, I believe the shop is about to open now, which I weren't able to try double check on that, but I might save that until tomorrow actually, just because no matter what though, we've got a lot of things to worry about for the sake of time. So because of that though, so yeah, with that being said folks, is that we get endings of this point right here. So join me next time for more of Let's Play of Paper Mario, aka Mario Story if you lived in Japan. Basically though, essentially what we're going to be doing is that we're about to explore into Toad Town for a while, and after that we can now able to make our way to the next chapter. So I'll see you guys until tomorrow. Later fellas.